Hey guys, tonight we slip into the cracked leather sandals of a Roman gladiator. It's still dark out, those hazy, inky hours before the sun dares to show itself, and you're already awake. You always wake up before the guards stomp through the corridor. There's something about the stale air and the low groans of other men around you that keeps your body on edge. You stretch slowly, careful not to jostle the gash healing on your left side. Your mattress is a thin sack of straw, just soft enough to keep your bones from bruising on the stone floor. You shift slightly and hear it. Chains iron dragging over stone, somewhere down the hallway. Outside the cell, the Ludus, the gladiator training school, is starting to stir. You sit up, scratch at the stubble on your chin, and reach for your tunic. It's stiff with yesterday's sweat and a little crusted blood. No one gets new ones unless you win a match. Or die in one. You glance at the others. A few are already upright, groaning through stretches or relieving themselves in clay pots. One guy, a wiry recruit from Numidia, mutters to himself as he counts push-ups. He's trying to impress the lanista. You think he'll lose a tooth before breakfast. You stand, feeling every bruise from yesterday's sparring session. Your back pops. Your knees ache. Your ribs still feel like someone tried to rearrange them with a hammer. It's a charming little alarm clock, your body politely screaming that you chose the wrong profession. You shuffle toward the latrine. A stone trench that smells like something even the gods would wrinkle their noses at. You do your business, splash water over your face, and rub your sore shoulder. A rat skitters past your foot. Classic. Then comes inspection. The medicus, let's call him Titus, walks by with a basket of herbs and old linen strips. He's always grumpy in the mornings, poking bruises and peeling off bandages like he's opening birthday presents. "How's the leg?" he asks, not really listening. You grunt. He pokes it anyway. "It hurts." "Could be worse," he says. Comforting. While Titus wraps a guy's cracked knuckles with what smells like goat fat, you sit on a low stool and check your own wounds. A cut along your collarbone looks angry, but not infected. You'll live. Probably. There's a tap on the bars. It's Maximus, the ex-legionary turned drill instructor. Up. Out. Now. He's got a voice like someone gargled gravel and vinegar. You rise, shake out your legs, and follow the others into the courtyard. Outside, the sky is still dusky blue, but the training yard is alive. You inhale deeply, sweat, damp earth, and the faint scent of olive oil from the kitchen. And something burning. Hopefully not breakfast. As you step into the yard, you pass the walls, covered with faded paintings of past champions. The lucky few who earned their freedom, or at least a cool nickname. There's Felix the Bold, who once took down a bear and 2 Samnites. And Lucius Two Swords, who, spoiler alert, lost both swords and an arm. You feel a mix of awe and dread. One day, your name might be up there, or your blood might be down here. A bell clangs and you line up. Your wooden sword, Brutus, is shoved into your hand. Not exactly Excalibur, but it'll do. You glance at your training partner for the day, a hulking Gaul with arms like tree trunks and a scar that runs from ear to chin. He grins. Not in a friendly way. Positions. Maximus barks. You drop into your stance, knees bent, arm loose, mind alert. The drills begin. Lunge. Parry. Thrust. Reset. Over. And over. Each strike sends vibrations up your arm. Each block tests your balance. You sweat through your tunic within minutes. The sun is rising now, casting long shadows across the sand. You catch glimpses of the others, some grunting, some shouting. A few are already being dragged off for water and a scolding. Some historians still argue whether gladiator training was more brutal than army drills. You've never been in the army, but at least soldiers didn't usually fight to the death for giggling teenagers in the stands. You switch to footwork drills, stepping side to side, forward and back, always circling. Your thighs burn. Your lungs rasp. Your sword clacks against your partner's with every timed motion. It's almost rhythmic, like a deadly dance class, minus the applause. Then comes the fun part, fall training. Maximus yells down, and you drop flat onto the sand, roll to your feet, and pop back up. Again. And again. Your tunic's full of grit. There's sand in your ears. You're sweating like a boar on Saturnalia. But weirdly, You're still standing. You pause for a moment, hand on your knee. Across the yard, a man vomits into a bush. Another throws his rudis in frustration and gets a swift kick for his trouble. You glance up at the sun. Mid-morning. Only a few more hours of this. Get up, pretty boy. Maximus calls to someone. Could be you, could be anyone. Doesn't matter. You straighten up. And just as the ache in your shoulder starts screaming again, a whistle blows. Training pause. A few men groan in relief. Others just collapse to the ground. You stagger toward the water trough, dunk your head, and come up gasping. One guy chuckles. First bath you've had in days. You grin half-conscious. Smells like you were in it first. You both laugh. Even gladiators get their jokes in. You sip some water, feeling the tremble in your arms subside. Welcome to morning in the Ludus. You sit on a sun-warmed bench outside the medic's hut, picking at your breakfast with fingers still dusty from the yard. It's barley gruel again. A thick grayish mush scooped into a shallow clay bowl, with a bit of olive oil on top if you're lucky. Today you're not lucky. You use a chunk of yesterday's bread to shovel it down. Chewy, dry, with the distinct texture of something that's already been through a sandstorm. Still, it's calories. And in this life, calories mean not passing out mid-spar. Across from you, two gladiators are arguing whether figs actually make you faster. They're sacred to Mars, one says, smacking his lips with priestly confidence. I eat them before every match. The other rolls his eyes. They just make you gassy. That's why your opponents run away. You snort into your bowl. Not exactly the wisdom of the Senate, but it's something. You finish eating and stretch out your legs. The bench creaks under your weight. Too many warriors, not enough carpenters. Your shoulder still smarts from earlier, and your thighs feel like they've been pounded with hammers. Which, to be fair, they have. Sort of. The medicus, Titus, wanders by again, this time with a pot of foul-smelling salve. He's got a nose like a vulture and hands that are surprisingly gentle, if uninterested. Hold still, he mutters as he smears the paste onto your knee. That swelling better go down by tomorrow, or you'll be limping into the arena like a toddler. You raise an eyebrow. Toddlers limp? He doesn't answer. You watch him move down the line, grumbling at bruises, peeling scabs like they insulted his mother. Despite his eternal bad mood, you're glad he's here. Some schools don't even have a medic, just vinegar, rags, and a lot of yelling. Some historians argue whether Roman gladiators received better medical care than the average citizen. Honestly, considering most Romans thought toothaches were caused by demons, it's possible. Someone slaps your back. It's Cassian, the Thracian with a temper and a tattoo of a hawk on his forearm. You still breathing, farmer? He says with a grin. You grunt. Barely. Good. You owe me a rematch. He walks off laughing, but you catch the tension in his shoulders. The kind of tension that says, we're all scared, but jokes are easier than screams. You stand and hobble over to the wash basin. A cracked stone bowl full of water slightly murky from other people's sweat and blood. You splash your face again, rubbing under your eyes. You haven't slept well. No one does. Not with dreams full of sand and screaming. Behind you, someone coughs, a sharp, wheezing hack that doesn't sound good. You glance over your shoulder. It's Aulus, the oldest among you. He's maybe 40, which in gladiator years is basically ancient. He once told you he'd been in over 40 matches. I've died twice already, he said, tapping his chest where the scars crossed. Third time's the charm. You offered him half your bread that day. You'd have done it again. As you rinse your hands, the sky above starts to shift. The harsh glare of midday is coming, and with it, the second wave of drills. But before that, you're given a short window, 15, maybe 20 minutes of relative peace. You limp to the shade of a narrow olive tree, its gnarled branches creaking softly in the wind. The dirt under it is dry and warm, and it smells faintly of crushed leaves and old wood smoke. You sit with your back against the trunk and exhale slowly. Your heartbeat is finally settling. You let your head tilt back and close your eyes for a moment. The air tastes like dust and figs and effort. Around you, the murmurs of other gladiators ripple like quiet surf. Someone nearby is singing in a soft, foreign language. Maybe Greek. Maybe Illyrian. You don't ask. You just listen. You catch a snippet of conversation behind you. Two men debating which of the new recruits will survive the month. The one with the crooked nose? No, the one who keeps crying at night. Ah, dead by Saturn's day. You smile grimly. You reach down and examine the sole of your sandal. Worn nearly smooth. Maybe you'll get a new pair if you win your next match. Maybe not. Maybe you won't need sandals anymore. You scratch your jaw. It's gotten scruffy again. The lanista doesn't mind as long as you don't look like a wild animal. Your fingers trace the scar on your hip, an old one. Your first match. You still remember the sting of it, the way your breath caught when the crowd roared and you realized, suddenly, that you were bleeding, and that you were still alive. A bee buzzes by your ear, makes a lazy loop, then drifts off. You keep your eyes closed. For a few short minutes, this is the closest you get to peace. This, right here, might be the best part of the day. A fringe theory you once overheard from a visiting philosopher claimed that gladiators were trained not just for violence, but to embrace death as a form of inner clarity. Honestly, you'd rather embrace a good night's sleep and some fresh sandals. But hey, different schools of thought. You feel your breath slow, the aches in your legs dull. For a moment, you forget where you are. Then clang, the bell rings again. Time to move. You stand, brush the dust off your tunic, and grab your training Ludus from the weapon rack. It's heavier now. Or maybe your arms are just tired. You look around. Everyone's forming into pairs again. You square your shoulders. It's time to spar. You step back into the training yard, sweat already rising on your skin even though the sun hasn't hit its peak. The air is thick with that familiar cocktail of iron, leather, and effort. Your feet crunch on the packed dirt, rutted with footprints and stained in places where wooden swords have left their mark, and so have the people swinging them. Your sparring partner today is Decimus. Big guy. A murmillo like you, which means he's carrying a hefty rectangular shield, and the same style of blunt practice gladius as you are. You've fought him before. He's fast for his size, and meaner when he's tired. He's also still holding a grudge from last week, when you got in a lucky strike that knocked his helmet off in front of everyone. That memory still smolders behind his eyes. You nod to him. Let's not break each other's arms, yeah? He just grins. The drill begins with the signal from the doctor, the head trainer, a retired gladiator himself, with a limp that could silence a riot. He blows a short blast on his whistle made from bone and growls. Begin. And you do. You circle Decimus, eyes on his shoulders, his hips, his feet. It's not the sword you watch, it's the body behind it. The way it tenses a half second before the swing. He lunges. You pivot. Your shield slams into his with a satisfying whomp, and your practice sword flashes out and thunks against his arm. A hit. But in training, a hit isn't a win. It's an invitation to get hit back harder. He recovers quickly and barrels forward with a grunt. You take the blow on your shield, absorbing the shock through your sore knees. He presses in close, gritting his teeth. You twist out, jab low. He grunts. Another hit. He's mad now. Over by the weapon racks, two dimikari, the guys with a sword in each hand and not a whole lot of patience, are shouting insults at each other in some strange North African dialect. It's unclear whether they're angry or just naturally loud. The doctor bellows across the yard. Control. You're training, not murdering. Some days, the line between those two gets fuzzy. You refocus. Decimus is breathing hard now, but so are you. Your arms ache from holding the shield. Your gladius feels like a sack of bricks. Another swing. Another parry. He tries to fake left, then strike right, but you've seen that trick before. You duck low, slam your shoulder into his stomach, and knock him off balance. He falls with a grunt and a loud thud. You lower your sword and step back. The whistle blows. Match over. Decimus groans and rolls to his feet. Lucky, he mutters. Maybe, you say, though you're pretty sure you earned that one. He gives you a nod. Not respect, exactly, but not hate either. Just two tired men in a world that demands they fight each other to survive. You'll take it. The doctor gives brief feedback, mostly in the form of yelling, and moves on to the next pair. You lean on your sword and exhale. You're drenched in sweat. Your arms are noodles. And it's only mid-morning. A few historians still argue whether these practice sessions were real preparation, or just glorified hazing. Either way, you're glad they exist. Because if you screw up out there in the real arena, you're not getting up afterward. Not unless you're very, very lucky. You retreat to the edge of the yard, where a slave boy hands you a damp cloth and a sip of watered wine. It's sour, but it clears your throat. You glance toward the side gate. A man in a brown toga stands there, holding a wax tablet. He's not part of the school, one of the lanista's agents, probably. There to keep tabs on the good fighters. The profitable ones. He watches you for a moment. Scribbles something down. You feel like a cut of meat being weighed. Which, let's be honest, isn't far off. Back in the yard, the next round begins. 2 retiarii are facing off. Those are the guys with nets and tridents. And let's just say they're not your first choice in a dark alley. One of them flips the net like he's spinning pizza dough, then throws it with surprising grace. It lands, tangles, pulls tight. The crowd of trainees claps. It's a small moment of theater. Just enough to forget the bruises. Someone murmurs next to you. I hear there's a fight scheduled next week. Big one. Public arena. You glance over. It's Flavian, a skinny guy with fast hands and no filter. Maybe we're on the list. You groan. Let me enjoy breathing first. He laughs. Sure. But the lanista wants gold. Breathing's optional. It's true. You've seen the matchboards. The names etched into the slate with rough chalk. Victors. Losers. Dead. Missing. Sometimes just blank lines. That's what you become if you don't make it, blank. Forgotten. You shake the thought off. Right now you're still standing. Still breathing. Still sweating. Nearby, 2 new recruits are struggling to even hold their shields properly. One's got it upside down. You wince. Everyone's been there, but it doesn't make it less painful to watch. A visiting Greek philosopher once claimed gladiators were like living art. Violent poetry carved in muscle and blood. You're not sure about the poetry part. Right now, you feel like a bruised sack of grain with a helmet. You drag your sword back to the rack and hang it in its spot, the wood still warm from your grip. Your training shift is over for now. You roll your shoulders. Your tunic clings to your back like wet parchment. Next stop, lunch. If you're lucky, maybe beans this time. You shuffle into the mess hall, if you can even call it that. It's more like a long, open-air pavilion with a thatched roof, lined with benches and battered wooden tables. The smell hits you first. Sweat, ash, sour wine, and something vaguely edible simmering in a pot. Not terrible, just honest. A slave ladle slops a helping of beans and barley into your bowl. No meat today. Again. You eye the brown lump floating in the mix and try not to think too hard about it. You slide onto a bench beside Decimus, who's already halfway through his serving. Across from you, Flavian is trying to juggle his bowl while complaining about the lack of garlic. A man needs flavor if he's going to fight tigers, he says, spraying a bean across the table. Pretty sure the tiger doesn't care if you're seasoned. You reply, poking your food with a spoon that's been bent back into shape too many times. This meal isn't just for nutrition, it's part of the rhythm, the pacing of your day. You eat slowly, not because you're savoring it, but because once you finish, it's back to drills. Or chores. Or worse, medical checks. So for a few moments, you take your time. The food is hot, filling, and gritty enough to make you drink more water than you want. Someone nearby is loudly cracking their joints. You hear a fart echo off the bench and some laughter. Gladiators aren't known for subtlety. A few seats down, 2 Thracians are whispering about an upcoming fight. One of them claims he overheard the lanista saying something about sending 5 of you to a provincial arena, some dusty town where the locals think bread and blood are the same thing. Better odds there than in Rome. Decimus mutters between mouthfuls. Small town crowds get attached. Sometimes they cheer for mercy. You nod, but your eyes linger on a scratch carved into the table. 3 lines crossed by a 4th. The old prisoner's tally. Someone sat here before you, counting days or fights or kills. Who knows? You feel your food settle heavily in your gut, like it's already decided to become part of the pain in your side later during drills. As you finish the last bite, you notice a man across the room. Older, grizzled, missing part of an ear. No one talks to him much. He's called Gaius, and rumor has it he's survived more arena fights than most of you have birthdays. But lately he's been walking slower, favoring his right leg. You wonder how many more bowls of beans he'll eat before the lanista sells him to the mines, or just quietly stops calling his name. Historians still argue. You murmur to yourself, half mocking the tone of some toga-clad professor, whether retired gladiators were ever truly free. Decimus looks at you confused. Never mind, you say, washing your spoon in the communal bucket. The water is gray and smells like defeat. As you step outside, the sun has climbed higher, and the yard shimmers with heat. The afternoon drills are coming, but first, latrine duty. You groan. Not again. But yes. Your name is scrawled on the slate outside the main quarters. Clean trench. Remove waste. Reset sand buckets. And so, you grab the shovel, hold your breath, and do the thing no one dreams about when imagining the life of a warrior. Here's the thing. In all those mosaics and marble statues, no one ever shows the part where you're ankle-deep in muck, scooping out the communal toilet with a cracked amphora. But it's part of the job. The less glamorous part. A fringe historian once wrote that gladiators were some of the cleanest people in Rome. Not because they wanted to be, but because infection killed faster than any sword. So yes, hygiene matters. Even if it stinks. You finish as quickly as your stomach will allow. Rinse off in the slave-poured bucket. Try not to gag. Then toss the soiled sand in a pit designed for exactly this disgusting purpose. Somewhere, a crow watches from the roof, judging you. You flip it off. After that humbling interlude, you grab your water skin and head back toward the training grounds for another set of afternoon drills. This time, footwork and formations. But before that begins, you spot something curious. A new face. A boy maybe 15. Skinny, shaking, wide-eyed. He's just arrived, his wrists still red from the chains. Fresh off a transport wagon. Probably stolen from a battlefield or sold by his desperate family. Maybe both. The doctor doesn't yell at him. Not yet. He just stands there, arms folded, waiting to see if the kid will faint or run. Or fight. You remember your first day. The fear. The silence. The dry mouth that refused to speak when someone barked a question. You feel a flicker of sympathy, quickly smothered, of course. This world doesn't give room for that. But still, you walk past him a little slower, let your shadow fall across his feet. He looks up at you, startled. You offer the smallest of nods. Don't trip, you mutter. It makes it worse. He gives the faintest nod in return. And just like that, he becomes part of the machine. Another number. Another swing of the sword waiting to happen. You return to your spot in line as the afternoon bell rings. The drills begin. This time it's all about formations, moving as a team, shield to shield, step by step, just like a Roman legion. Funny thing. You're a slave, trained to kill other slaves for fun, but in this moment, you're practicing like a soldier of Rome. The irony's not lost on you. Another odd fact? Some emperors believed gladiators should be honored for their courage, paraded like heroes. Others saw you as walking meat with helmets. You're not sure which kind of emperor is in power now. But you do know this. When the gates open and the crowd screams, no one cares who you are. Only what you do. And today, you march forward. Step by step. Shield raised. Like it matters. The sun starts its slow descent, casting long golden beams across the training yard as you march in formation. Dust kicks up with every synchronized stomp, settling into your sandals, clinging to your calves. Your arms burn from holding your shield steady. Your shoulder aches from the endless repetition. Still, you keep moving. Because stopping means attention. And attention means getting picked as a demonstration dummy for the doctor's next brutal lesson. Today's focus is Testudo, the tortoise. You and the others form a compact, defensive wall, front shields forward, top shields overhead, overlapping like scales. The shield corners jab into your ribs, and someone's sweaty forearm brushes your neck, but the formation holds. It must. If you collapse during the real thing, a spear finds its way in. And then you're just another statistic. Left flank drop. The doctor barks. You react a second too slow. The end of his staff cracks across your thigh. Dead, he says, not even looking at you. Again. You clench your jaw, reset your shield, and repeat. This isn't about perfection. It's about obedience. Precision. Unity. The crowd might love a lone fighter, but the lanista loves survivors, gladiators who move together like limbs of one savage beast. And the practice yard isn't just for your benefit. Up in the viewing platform, you spot a few cloaked figures, patrons maybe. Wealthy Romans who pay extra to watch gladiators train. A sort of VIP sneak preview of the carnage to come. One of them laughs. You don't know what was funny. Doesn't matter. You're not here to be funny. What's strange is how detached you feel during this part. As if your body belongs to the drills, but your mind wanders elsewhere. You think about the boy from earlier, the new one. He's off to the side now, being fitted for basic gear. His helmet is too big, slipping over his eyes. You wonder if you looked like that once. Probably worse. Here's a quirky fact. Some gladiators had fan clubs. Actual groupies who wrote their names on walls and threw flowers into the arena. Crixus the Gaul, heart stealer of the arena. That sort of thing. Historians have even found love poems carved into bricks. Which is absurd, considering half the time you're missing teeth or bleeding from the nose. You don't feel like a heart stealer. You feel like a man learning to be a cog. After the drills, you're sent to maintenance. You think maybe, just maybe, you'll get to polish your sword and inspect your gear in peace. But no, it's shield duty today. Sanding, oiling, and restrapping the heavy wooden beasts for the morning trials. The armory is cramped and dark, smelling of leather, iron, and sweat baked into wood. You sit on a barrel and begin rubbing oil into a battered scutum. It's seen better days, nicks from blades, a dent that looks suspiciously like a trident strike. Nearby, a pair of veterans are arguing about helmet styles. I'm telling you, one insists, the Secutor's design is better. Smooth dome, no openings, harder to grab. Bah, the other scoffs. But the Murmillo's crest intimidates. Fear is a weapon too. You don't join in. You're a retiarius, a net and trident guy. Fast, agile, lightly armored. Which basically means you're banking on speed and flair over brute force. Great for crowd pleasing. Terrible if you get cornered. You run your fingers over a fresh leather strap and wonder, again, who designed this stuff? Historians still argue whether gladiator gear was optimized for survival or spectacle. You've got your own opinion. It was designed to keep just enough hope alive to sell more tickets. You finish the shields and stack them by the door. Your back cracks as you straighten up. You've been bent over too long. Before heading out, you check the weapons rack. Your trident's there, slightly bent at the tip, but still solid. Your net hangs beside it, stiff from dried blood and sand. Everything in here tells a story. You step outside into a warm twilight breeze and blink at the sudden brightness. The air is softer now, less demanding. For a moment, the yard feels like a different place, quiet, almost serene. A bell tolls. Not for training, for bathing. The bathhouse is barely a bathhouse. It's a cold pool, a few benches, and a chipped statue of Neptune missing his nose. But it's your only escape, however brief, from the grime of the day. You strip down, muscles protesting every motion. The water shocks you at first, cold enough to jolt your spine, but soon it's bliss. You dunk your head under, wash away the sweat, dust, and indignity. You scrub yourself with sand and a worn cloth, rinse off, and just float for a moment, eyes closed. Someone nearby is humming, a strange off-key lullaby. You don't recognize the language. Might be Dacian. Might be made up. Either way, it's oddly comforting. When you open your eyes again, you see stars above you. Just a few, timidly poking through the fading sky. You exhale. For a moment, you feel almost human again. Back in the barracks, the mood is different. Softer. Some men are wrapping their wrists in linen. Others are sharpening blades with rhythmic strokes that feel almost meditative. You smell old wax and oiled leather. Someone has lit a small oil lamp. Its flicker throws dancing shadows on the walls. Shadows that look, from the right angle, like warriors frozen mid-battle. You stare at them a little longer than you mean to. Then a surprise. The cook arrives with a plate of dried figs and a small jug of watered-down wine. A rare treat, possibly from a patron, or maybe a gift before a particularly dangerous match. You don't ask. You just take a fig and let the sweetness linger on your tongue. It's the first thing you've tasted today that reminds you of life outside the arena. As the barracks quiet down, Someone starts telling a story about a lion once outsmarted by a blind gladiator. Everyone laughs. You're not sure if it's true, but in this place, myth and memory blend easily. You lie down on your cot, wooden frame creaking under your weight. The coarse blanket scratches your skin, but it's familiar. Safe in a way. You stare up at the beams overhead and think about tomorrow's match. You don't know your opponent yet. Could be a friend. Could be someone like Gaius. Or worse, someone fast. You close your eyes. Somewhere, a cricket chirps. Sleep doesn't last long. Before the stars even have time to shift positions in the sky, you're awake again, jerked from a dreamless doze by the sound of boots on gravel and a rusted hinge groaning open. The doctor's silhouette blocks the doorway for a heartbeat. Then he mutters something about a last-minute announcement and vanishes. Murmurs ripple through the barracks. Some groans. Someone mutters a curse in Thracian. It's still dark, but you all rise like clockwork. No one questions a summons. You splash cold water on your face, strap on sandals, and line up outside. The air bites more than usual. A low mist curls across the training yard, and your breath clouds in the gloom. At the far end, the lanista waits, draped in his night robe, sipping mulled wine, and looking like a man who's too rich to ever feel cold. Beside him stands a Roman official with scrolls, rings, and the proud sneer of someone who's never held a sword but talks about battles a lot. He reads from the scroll with dramatic flair. By order of the magistrate, tomorrow's arena schedule has changed. A special exhibition has been arranged, sponsored by Senator Licinius. All champions and reserves will participate. Opponents will be drawn by lot at sunrise. You know what that means. Surprise match. Probably some visiting dignitaries involved. Maybe even a foreign envoy or bored prince wanting to see Roman brutality up close. The kind of event where even the script gets thrown out. Where sometimes they don't tell you if the blades are real until you're already bleeding. As you shuffle back into the barracks, there's a tension in the air now. Like an invisible thread pulled too tight. Even the veterans are quieter. Everyone's calculating, planning, whispering. You lie back down but don't sleep. Instead, you rehearse moves in your head, step, thrust, net swing, pivot. Over and over. Your muscles twitch as if practicing without your permission. Morning comes wrapped in the smell of barley porridge. You eat quickly, barely tasting it. By now you know not to eat too much before a fight. Vomiting in front of a crowd tends to kill the drama. After breakfast, it's gear time. You head to the armory. Your net has been repaired, patched with fresh cords. Your trident's tip has been filed. It feels heavier today. Or maybe that's just your nerves. One of the younger recruits fumbles with his belt. He's sweating already. You help him tie it, quietly muttering, "Don't drop your guard. Don't overstep." He nods, pale and wide-eyed, like someone about to meet a god. Or something worse. In the background, horns sound. A long, droning note that rolls over the Ludus like thunder. It's time. You walk out into the light, single file, toward the holding pens beneath the arena. The corridor walls are stained from decades of similar footsteps. Chalk graffiti marks former fighters' names, short prayers, crude drawings. You add none of your own. You're not that kind of hopeful. At the arena gates, a handler hands out tokens. Your match number. You flip yours over. 8. A good number, maybe. Unless your opponent got 9. There's always a wait before your fight. Enough time to stew in your thoughts. You sit on a stone bench. A rooster crows somewhere above the stadium, completely unfazed by the impending chaos. Beside you, someone asks what your last meal would be if you had the choice. You say roasted duck in silence. Everyone chuckles. Quirky tidbit. Some gladiators were given massages before matches. Not out of luxury, but because a cramped calf might mean death. One unlucky stumble, and you're decorating the sand with your intestines. The lanista didn't spring for a masseuse today, but a few guys are stretching like dancers backstage. The ground shakes slightly. The crowd is roaring now. A steady wave of noise. Then the gates creak. You walk into light. The sun hits you hard. Your eyes narrow against the glare. The arena unfolds in a massive bowl of stone and sand. Above, rows of Romans in togas and tunics, laughing, jeering, cheering. You scan their faces but find no kindness. Across the arena floor, your opponent enters. You know him. Not a friend. Not an enemy. Just a name you've set across the table at mealtime. A man who once loaned you a strip of cloth to bind a blister. His weapon glints in the sun, a curved blade, short and fast. No net today. They want spectacle. You've been given a dagger and a short spear. That's when you know this match isn't about form or category. It's about adaptability. A hush falls. A trumpet sounds. You move. He lunges first, wildly. You sidestep and jab, clipping his shoulder. Not deep. Just a warning. The sand betrays you next. Your foot slips ever so slightly, enough to throw off balance. He presses in, fast, and you parry, both of you locked now, breathing hard, eyes searching for tells. It goes on like that, slice, dodge, grunt, backpedal. Your lungs burn. Your forearms shake. Sweat blinds you. And the crowd loves it. They shout your names. Chant rhythms you can't quite follow. Somewhere up there, coins are being bet, reputation staked. Then you see it. He overextends. You spin, sweep low, and he falls flat on his back, blade skidding across the sand. You step forward, raise your dagger. He closes his eyes. You glance up at the podium. The official raises his hand. Thumb out, then turns it down. You hesitate, just long enough for the crowd to groan. But rules are rules. You strike cleanly. No scream. Just the thud of surrender. The crowd erupts. You don't feel proud. Just tired. Back in the holding cell, someone pats your shoulder. You're handed water and a slice of bread. The handler marks your tally on the board. One more win. One more reason to keep breathing. Historians still argue whether gladiators wanted to die heroes, or simply live another week. You know the answer. At least for yourself. You live for the breath in your lungs. The weight of the blade in your palm. The next sunrise. Back in the barracks, the mood is uneven. Some men are slumped against the walls, nursing cuts and bruises. Others are laughing, loud and defiant, as if to deny how close they came to dying. The young recruit you helped earlier? He didn't make it. You don't know the details. Just that his spot on the bunk is already being cleared by another. That's the rhythm here. Wins and losses. Life and not life. There's no room for grief. Not publicly. Not unless you want the doctor calling you a weakling. You sit quietly, wiping blood, his and yours, from your arm with a scrap of linen. It's stiff with dried sweat and old stains. Your muscles still hum from the fight, but it's not adrenaline now, it's exhaustion. Like every limb is filled with molten iron. The older Germanic fighter next to you breaks a hunk of hard cheese in half and offers you a piece. You nod thanks, chewing slowly as he mutters something about good death, short pain. You don't reply. Later, you visit the medicus. A lean man with ink-stained fingers and eyes like an owl's. He dabs your shoulder with vinegar-soaked rags and examines a bruise on your ribs. You'll live, he mutters. But no more spear work for a few days. Your side's purple. Quirky tidbit time. Roman medics often use spider webs to stop bleeding. The webs were packed into wounds because they supposedly helped clot blood. You don't know if it works, but the medicus reaches for a jar filled with what looks suspiciously like cobwebs. You subtly angle your body away. Afterward, you trudge back to the training yard. Not because you're required to, but because your muscles won't let you sit still. Cooling down after a match is crucial. Cramping could mean injury. Or worse, no fight tomorrow. As you move through light stretches, the doctor approaches. You fought smart, he says. Which, coming from him, is practically a marriage proposal. Thank you, you reply. He nods toward the far end of the yard. They want you to train with the Retiarius group tomorrow. Might be a show match next week. Special guest. Ah yes, the special guest. Historians still argue whether the emperor ever watched the games as intently as people claimed, or whether he just showed up to be seen. Either way, when someone important is in the stands, you don't trip over your own sandals. You nod. Understood. That night, sleep comes quickly but stays shallow. You dream of sand and shouting and a blade that never quite reaches your skin. Then of home, whatever that means anymore. A flash of trees. A riverbank. Someone laughing. You wake before dawn. Training with the Retiarius means starting earlier. The group is small, Mostly lanky fighters, wiry and quick. They rely on agility and trap setting, not brute strength. You join them in the misty yard, net coiled like a snake in your palm. Today, you practice versus secutor tactics. The secutor is your natural enemy. Heavy helmet, smooth shield, gladius in hand. Built to chase you down and exhaust you. It's a game of patience. You dance. He charges. You tire him out, then strike. The doctor pairs you with a new guy wearing a mock secutor setup. Your net hisses through the air. He blocks. You feint. He swings wide. You dart left, circling. Then snap, the net catches his arm. You tug hard. He stumbles, and your trident finds his chest plate. Tap. Match. You're both panting. He grins. Fast. You shrug. Luck. You're good, he says. What's your name again? You pause. You can call me the one who doesn't die today. It earns a laugh. After drills, the sun climbs higher, and the yard fills with overlapping groups, different classes of fighters practicing different forms. Murmillo. Thracian. Bestiarii. You watch as the animal fighters prep with dummies shaped like wild cats and boars. These are the lunatics who fight actual beasts in the arena. Quirky detail. To tame animals before combat, handlers often drug them, especially big cats. The Sleepy Lion Act wasn't a design flaw, it was crowd control. But sometimes the dosage was wrong, and the lion wasn't sleepy at all. Hence, bestiarii didn't get retirement plans. You turn your attention back to your group. More net drills. More footwork. The heat rises, and your tunic clings to your skin. Someone collapses from heat stroke halfway through the circuit. The medic rushes in. You keep moving. Lunch is late barley soup and stale bread. You eat with your back against the cool stone wall of the barracks, watching a few of the new guys mess around with throwing daggers. One misses and embeds in the doorframe. Nice, someone says dryly. Kill the door next match. Laughter echoes. Even in this place, gallows humor survives. By mid-afternoon, you're pulled aside. A libellus, a scribe with inky fingers, wants to record your name for the program scroll. Apparently, the senatorial guest requested some background on the fighters for added drama. You tell him your origin, your style, a name you used once in a tavern for fun. He nods, jotting quickly. Anything heroic you want me to add? He asks, only half mocking. You consider. Say I never lose to a man who underestimates a net. He smiles. Catchy. As the sun sinks, you're given free time. You head to the small shrine near the edge of the Ludus. It's cluttered with offerings, bone dice, wooden carvings, bits of coin. A tiny, soot-darkened statue of Nemesis, the goddess of retribution, stands at the center. You kneel, not to pray, just to remember. You leave behind a scrap of leather from your wrist wrap. Maybe she'll appreciate the gesture. Historians still debate whether gladiators believed the gods listened to them, or whether the shrine was just ritual, habit, not hope. You don't know, but it feels better than nothing. That evening, you climb to the roof. You're not supposed to, but the guards don't stop you anymore. Up here, you can see past the arena, beyond the training yard, over the walls. The city stretches out like a tired giant. Smoke rising, people shouting, a million stories happening at once. You sit. Breathe. The stone is warm beneath you. You whisper the names of the ones who didn't come back today. Then, for a moment, you just listen to the hum of distant voices, the faint rattle of dice, the rustle of someone laughing somewhere nearby. You're still here. That's something. The next morning begins before the sun. You're awakened by the clang of a bell, sharp, metallic, impossible to ignore. A few groans echo through the barracks, but most of you rise without complaint. Muscle memory kicks in before thought. You swing your legs over the side of the bunk, rub your eyes, and feel the familiar ache ripple through your body like the aftershock of an earthquake. Today is not an ordinary day. The lanista has announced a special exhibition. Not a fight to the death, but not a friendly spar either. Just enough danger to keep the crowd entertained. A senator's son is rumored to be watching. Word is, he's considering buying a few of you to take back to his estate. As pets. Bodyguards. Party entertainment? No one knows. But everyone understands what it means. Fight well today, and your future might get marginally less miserable. You pull on your gear. Today, you're assigned your old Murmillo helmet. Thick, heavy, visor slitted just enough to give you tunnel vision. You carry a rectangular scutum, and your trusty gladius. The weight is familiar, but somehow it feels heavier. Maybe it's the expectation. Maybe it's breakfast. Which, by the way, is hot millet and a splash of watered wine. Delicious. If you hate flavor. Out in the yard, pairs begin their warm-ups. Footwork feints shield slams. You pair up with a Thraex, a nimble type with a curved blade and a crested helmet. He nods to you, then starts dancing circles around your blocky stance. Classic. You swing cautiously, testing range. He parries and taps your thigh. Touché. A few of the other fighters cheer at the display. Friendly jabs fly across the yard. Keep your eyes open, turtle. Someone tell him it's not nap time. You smirk beneath the helmet. It's all bravado, of course. But it helps. Laughter is easier than fear. Then, the doctor steps forward and calls for attention. All right, show-offs, he barks. Listen up. 2 bouts today. Exhibition style. Senator Marcus Licinius Crassus will be watching. So smile with your blades. The name gets murmurs. Crassus is known. Wealthy. Well-connected. Possibly on the short list for governor. You don't care much for politics, but you know enough to understand this could change your life, or end it, if he's in a bloodthirsty mood. First bout begins. You watch from the sidelines, observing styles, pacing, breathing rhythms. The 2 fighters clash with theatrical flair. Dust kicks up. Blades sing. A mock kill, performed so well that even the guards flinch. The crowd, small but influential, claps politely. They're seated under shade, sipping wine, fanning themselves like they've walked a mile uphill. Quirky tidbit. These mini exhibitions sometimes involved fake blood packets, goat bladders filled with red dye, to make the death more dramatic. You wonder if that's what just exploded on that guy's chest. He's lying very still, but you spot the telltale wrinkle of a bladder under his tunic. Your turn. The doctor gives you a sharp look. Don't embarrass me. You nod once, take a deep breath, and step into the sand. Your opponent is a veteran, Decimus, the bull of the barracks. Towering. Slow. But he hits like a falling column. The bell clangs. He charges, shield up, blade low. You sidestep, circle, baiting him. Your gladius flashes out and clips his shoulder. He grunts and counters with a shield bash that knocks the wind out of you. The crowd perks up. You recover, feint left, then pivot right and slam your shield into his ribs. It works barely. He stumbles. You press, blade tapping his breastplate. Match over. Polite applause. Crassus nods once. That's all. You retreat, panting, every nerve buzzing. Historians still argue whether these polite nods were actually signs of approval, or just upper-class boredom. Either way, it means you weren't a disappointment. In gladiator terms, that's practically a trophy. Back in the barracks, Decimus claps you on the back hard enough to knock a lung loose. Not bad, twig arms. You grin. You made it easy. He snorts. Liar. After the match, there's a break. A little time for the fighters to rest before evening drills. You take a basin of water and wash the grime from your arms. Your tunic is damp, your face is sticky, but you feel something close to alive. The lanista makes an appearance, a rare thing. He strides through the training yard, nodding to the doctor, then scanning the ranks of tired, sand-caked fighters. His gaze lands on you. You, he says. You blink. Yes. Crassus was amused. You'll fight again next week. Full crowd. Great. You bow slightly. Thank you. He walks away. You resist the urge to mutter something about fancy sandals and inherited power. You spend the rest of the afternoon working with wooden weapons. The doctor insists on repetition, form, precision. Even now, even tired, even when you've proven yourself. You thrust. Step back. Reset. You block. Parry. Counter. Over and over. And over. At one point, a young fighter asks, "Do we ever stop?" The doctor answers without turning, "When you're dead." That night, dinner is stew. A little meat. A little grain. It almost tastes like food. You sit with a few others under the torchlight, listening to the sounds of the city echoing beyond the Ludus walls. Music, arguing, laughter, life unchained. Someone pulls out dice and starts a game. You pass. Instead, you lean against the stone and gaze at the stars, feeling them blink through the rising smoke of cooking fires. It's strange. For all the violence, the fear, the bone-deep fatigue, there are moments like this. Moments that feel quiet, sacred even. Maybe that's how you stay sane. You cling to the silence between the sword strikes. You drift off like that, half awake, half dreaming, the smell of sweat and oil in your nose, the sound of distant flutes floating through the Roman dusk. Morning arrives without warning, just a dull ache behind your eyes and a spine that creaks like an old door hinge. You slept a little. Enough. Not enough. It doesn't matter. You're woken by footsteps this time. Not the usual barracks bell or barked commands. Just the slow shuffle of leather sandals and the subtle metallic chime of armor. That's always a worrying sound. Too soft to be a drill, too deliberate to ignore. A guard calls your name. You're being summoned. To the villa. You blink, still tangled in sleep and confusion. The others glance at you with a mix of envy and pity. Being summoned by the lanista during training hours is like being called to the principal's office. If the principal might sell you or send you to your death depending on how his figs taste that morning. You rise, splash water on your face, and smooth your tunic as best you can. It's stained and faded, but at least it doesn't smell like rotting goat today. The guard leads you out of the training yard, and through a narrow stone corridor that curves toward the lanista's private residence. It's quiet here. No shouts, no clashing wood. Just chirping birds and the distant tinkling of a fountain. The path is lined with trimmed hedges and a ridiculous amount of decorative pebbles. Someone has been raking them into neat little spirals. You resist the urge to scuff one with your heel. You're ushered into the atrium, a grand space with a marble floor, vivid frescoes of mythical battles, and a looming statue of Mars in the corner. Mars, god of war, mid-swing, stone eyes fixed on nothing. You wait. Eventually, the lanista appears. He's wearing a crimson toga and sipping something that smells suspiciously like expensive honeyed wine. He waves at a cushioned stool. You sit stiffly. I hear you're becoming a crowd favorite, he says, voice smooth as polished marble. You blink. I didn't realize anyone was keeping track. He laughs. The crowd always keeps track. That's what makes them dangerous. He pours himself more wine. Doesn't offer you any. Naturally. I've been speaking with Marcus Licinius Crassus, he continues. He finds you amusing. There's a pause. You wait for the other sandal to drop. He's requested a private audience, the lanista says. Don't panic. It's not a duel. Yet. You're not sure whether to be flattered or terrified. You go with both. Get cleaned up. You'll go to his estate at sundown. Make a good impression. With that, he waves you away like an overfed cat dismissing its servant. Back in the barracks, your news travels fast. Everyone wants to know what Crassus is like. You have no idea. You just hope he doesn't want a reenactment of the Trojan War, with live blades. One of the other fighters, a Gaul with an odd sense of humor and a fondness for fermented turnips, claps you on the back. Just don't trip on his mosaic floors. They're slippery when wet. Like politics. You get washed, properly this time. Hot water, olive oil, a fresh tunic. It's still rough linen, but it smells like lemon peel and not like blood, so hey, progress. By sunset, you're escorted out of the Ludus in a small chariot, not the racing kind, sadly. Just a glorified cart with a canopy and an unnecessarily smug driver. You pass through the streets of Rome. The city is still a marvel. Even after all these months, the sheer scale of it dazzles you. Towering arches, colorful market stalls, multi-story insulae where people lean out and toss gossip like breadcrumbs to pigeons. You even catch a glimpse of the Tiber glittering under the last breath of sunlight. Crassus's villa is on the Palatine Hill, which of course means it's enormous. You're led past a garden with sculpted hedges, into a colonnaded courtyard, and finally to a room filled with scrolls, cushioned chairs, and bronze lamps flickering with sweet-scented oil. Crassus sits at a desk reading. His robe is impossibly clean. His beard, meticulously trimmed. You've seen statues with less symmetry. He gestures you in. You fight well, he says, not looking up. Efficient. Reserved. Like a true soldier. You swallow. Thank you, sir. He finally meets your eyes. Tell me, what did you do before the arena? Ah, the old question. You hesitate. I was a blacksmith's apprentice. He nods. Interesting. Practical. He offers you a drink, actual wine this time, and you sip, trying not to gag. It's too sweet, too thick. Like drinking fermented syrup. But it's polite to accept. He studies you. You have discipline, he says. I could use someone like that. Not just in the arena, but elsewhere. I'm considering purchasing your contract. You blink. This isn't normal. Gladiators don't just get bought for side jobs. They get bought for blood sport, bodyguarding, or novelty entertainment at very questionable parties. Elsewhere, you ask cautiously. Protection. Discretion. Occasional travel. You'd live better. Train less. Possibly live longer. Possibly. Historians still argue whether Crassus employed gladiators for personal security or used them to settle debts and deliver threats. Either way, it's a pivot. He dismisses you shortly after, with a nod and a cryptic "we'll see." On the ride back, the city glows like a brazier under a night sky. The streets are alive. Laughter, shouting, music. Somewhere, someone's playing the lyre. Somewhere else, two people are arguing over the last fried eel at a market stall. You arrive back at the Ludus, tired and uncertain. The others gather around like curious cats. Well, someone asks. You shrug. He liked my haircut. The room erupts in laughter. You let it happen. It's easier than saying you might not be one of them much longer. That night, you lie awake longer than usual. The barracks are quiet. Outside, an owl hoots. You stare at the ceiling, replaying Crassus's words. Live better. Train less. Possibly live longer. It sounds like hope. But in Rome, hope is just a cleverer way to say not yet. Still, it's something. Dawn feels different this morning, sharper somehow. As if the air itself knows you're standing on a cliff's edge. You trudge to the training yard, muscles protesting every step, but your mind races faster than your body could ever hope to move. The news from last night is already circulating. You're officially on Crassus's radar. Not just a gladiator, potentially something more. You can't help but imagine what that might look like. A life with fewer bruises, better food, maybe even some kind of freedom. But freedom in Rome is a tricky concept, like trying to catch smoke with your bare hands. As you warm up, your thoughts drift to yesterday's exhibition. You remember the way the crowd's eyes flicked toward you, the way the lanista nodded approval, and Crassus's expression, calm, calculating, maybe even approving. Still, there's a dark cloud. The politics behind these displays are as dangerous as the blades you wield. Crassus is a man of ambition, and ambition in Rome is rarely kind. Your training is interrupted by the arrival of the doctor. He's serious, more than usual. You have a private session with Crassus's advisor this afternoon, he says. Don't mess it up. Private sessions? You're starting to feel like a prize gladiator pup being groomed for the show. During the break, you overhear some of the others whispering. One says Crassus might want you to train others, teach novices the art of the arena. Another jokes that you'll soon be too important to clean your own sandals. You laugh quietly, but can't shake the nervous flutter in your stomach. After midday, you're escorted through the bustling streets again, this time to a smaller, quieter villa owned by Crassus's trusted advisor. The rooms are adorned with exotic tapestries, and an assortment of weapons displayed like trophies. The advisor, a stern man with sharp eyes and a clipped beard, wastes no time. You have skill, he says. But Crassus wants more than that. He wants loyalty, strategy, discipline. He hands you a small dagger. Not for the arena, but for self-defense, he says. The metal is cold and smooth, the hilt wrapped in worn leather. You feel the weight and realize this isn't just a gift. It's a symbol. A test. Quirky tidbit. Some gladiators reportedly carried tiny daggers concealed in their sandals for emergencies. A last-ditch tool for escape or survival. You wonder if you should start practicing that trick. The advisor speaks of loyalty like it's a chain, binding you tighter with every promise. Crassus has plans. Plans that require discretion. You will be trained in more than just fighting. You will learn politics, negotiation, subtlety. You nod, absorbing every word. Historians still argue whether such roles were common for gladiators, or just the privileges of the elite few. The truth, as always, is buried beneath layers of scrolls and speculation. As the session ends, you feel the shift inside you. A subtle change from mere gladiator to something more complicated, more dangerous. Returning to the Ludus, your fellow fighters eye you differently. Some with envy, others with suspicion. You're no longer just one of them. That night, as you lie on your bunk, the sounds of Rome seep through the walls. The distant clatter of chariots, the murmur of lovers, the restless whispers of the city's heart. You wonder what tomorrow will bring. The morning air is sharp with the tang of dust and sweat, already thick around the training grounds before the sun has fully risen. You wake with a stiffness that's more familiar now. A constant companion after months of brutal drills and relentless discipline. But today, the weight of the small dagger hanging from your belt feels heavier than usual, not because of its physical heft, but because it carries the invisible burden of expectation. You are no longer just a gladiator. You are becoming something else, a tool for power, a shadow in a game far bigger than the arena. As you step into the courtyard, the usual cacophony of grunts, clashing wood, and shouted orders fills your ears. The rhythm of training, once a brutal but predictable routine, now seems layered with new meaning. Your fellow fighters move with their usual ferocity, but you notice their eyes flick to you more often. Some with curiosity, others with an almost wary respect. They've heard the rumors. You're no longer just their comrade in arms. You're someone with ties to the elite, someone who might soon walk a different path. During sparring, your mind drifts. Crassus, the powerful Roman aristocrat, looms over your thoughts like the statue of Mars in his villa, commanding, cold, and implacable. His ambitions ripple through Rome's politics like the rising tide, and you are suddenly caught in the undertow. You realize this is no longer about brute strength or sheer survival. It's about cunning, loyalty, and the delicate dance of power. Later, Dacius, the veteran Thracian with scars like a road map across his face, pulls you aside. His voice is low, a rumble barely audible over the clang of metal. That dagger you carry, he says, his gaze sharp, is more than a weapon. It's a symbol, a reminder. If you misstep, it will be the noose around your neck. His warning hangs in the air, heavy and ominous. It's true, symbols can protect, but they can also betray. The afternoon brings a break from physical exertion. A series of lessons in a room that smells of parchment and olive oil. Crassus's advisor is exacting and patient, drilling you in the languages of the Senate, the protocols of aristocratic courts, and the subtle art of negotiation. A gladiator who cannot navigate politics, he says sternly, is merely a beast with a sword. You swallow hard, feeling the weight of his words. This new education is as foreign as the foreign blades you train with, but somehow just as vital. Historians still argue whether gladiators ever received such formal schooling, or if these lessons were reserved only for the favored few. But as you sit among scrolls and dusty manuscripts, you realize that knowledge is power, perhaps the only power that might save you from a sharpened blade. During a rare moment of calm, you find yourself in the villa's lush garden, the scent of blooming jasmine mingling with the distant murmur of fountains. Crassus is there too, surrounded by senators and merchants, his laughter booming and easy. His presence is magnetic, the kind that bends conversations and wills men to follow. When his eyes meet yours, he lifts his goblet in a silent toast. It's an unspoken promise, a bond forged in shadow and ambition. Quirky tidbit. You remember hearing tales of gladiators who kept small pets, lizards, songbirds, even monkeys, to soothe their nerves before fights. The thought makes you smile. The idea of a gladiator pacing the arena with a chameleon perched on his shoulder seems absurd yet oddly comforting. Maybe one day, if you survive this tangled web, you'll adopt such a companion. Back in the barracks, you try to explain the day to your comrades, but words falter. They see the dagger glinting at your side, the subtle shift in your posture, the guarded way you answer their questions. The gulf between you and them grows wider with every step you take into Crassus's world. As night falls, silence envelopes the Ludus. You lie awake, fingers tracing the cool metal of the dagger, feeling the rough leather of the grip. Outside, the city's pulse slows to a whisper. Only the occasional bark, the distant footsteps, the soft rustle of night wind through olive branches. You think about what lies ahead. Freedom? Chains? Survival? You realize that in Rome, hope is never simple. It's layered, complex, and often just another form of strategy. Still, it's something. And for now, that something is enough to carry you through the darkness. The Roman sun climbs higher, beating down with a relentless heat that feels like a physical weight pressing on your skin, your muscles, your very bones. The sweat that beads along your brow and drips down your back is familiar, but today it feels heavier, more oppressive, because the day ahead is no longer just about physical endurance or brute strength. No, today you're learning the subtler skills of survival. How to read the room, or rather, the entire political theater surrounding your very existence. You trudge toward the training grounds, the dusty earth crunching beneath your sandals. The doctor is already there, pacing, his face a tight mask of concentration and impatience. Today, there is no mercy in his eyes. The usual routine of swinging swords and hefting shields is replaced with something sharper, something that feels like mental chess disguised as physical combat. You take up your sword and shield, muscles aching but ready, and prepare to spar. The doctor calls out commands. Watch the feet. Predict the strike. Use their weight against them. Every word is a lesson not just in fighting but in understanding opponents. It's no longer just about brute force. You must anticipate, deceive, and control the flow of battle. You notice the doctor's sharp eyes flick occasionally to the shadows, where Crassus's advisor sits silently. His gaze feels like a heavy cloak draped over your shoulders, ever present and demanding perfection. One wrong move, one falter, and it won't just be your life on the line, but your very place in this complicated web. You spar fiercely, sweat mixing with dirt on your skin. Every parry and thrust is a conversation, a negotiation for dominance. You find yourself becoming less like a wild beast and more like a strategist, a soldier of fortune dancing with death, but holding something close to hope. After the sparring, you're granted a brief respite by the small pool in the corner of the training grounds. The water is cool and clear, a small blessing in the midday heat. You cup your hands and splash the refreshing liquid on your face and neck. The sound of trickling water against smooth stones is almost meditative, momentarily drowning out the distant roar of the city and the ever-present clang of metal. Here, in this fragile quiet, you think back to some of the stranger things you've heard during your time in the Ludus. For instance, some gladiators, true to their reputation for bizarre habits, use crocodile dung as a crude sunscreen. The idea of slathering that on their skin makes you shudder and laugh at the same time. But in Rome, survival often meant embracing the weird and the wild. You wonder if that strange ritual ever really worked, or if it was just another spectacle in a life filled with spectacle. Your thoughts are interrupted by a summons to meet a new trainer. An older man with a grizzled beard and battle scars like a map of past wars. Rumor has it he's survived more than 50 bouts, a living legend among gladiators. He greets you with a rough nod and speaks in a voice that's gravel and wisdom mixed. The crowd is everything, he tells you, leaning in close. They are your enemy and your ally. Learn to fight their expectations, but also learn to feed them what they want. They crave a show, a story. Sometimes a hero, sometimes a villain. If you give them that, they'll keep you alive. His words strike a chord. The gladiator's life isn't just about blood and steel, it's about performance. A brutal dance played out for the pleasure of thousands. Historians still argue whether gladiators truly fought to the death every time or if some matches were staged, carefully choreographed to entertain the masses without losing precious fighters. Regardless, you now understand that the line between life and theater is a thin and dangerous one. Back at the barracks, the air is thick with low murmurs and guarded glances. You pick up on the tension, whispers of betrayals, alliances, rivalries simmering just below the surface like a hidden fire waiting to ignite. The Ludus is a small world, but its politics are as fierce and treacherous as those in the Senate. You share a meal with your fellow gladiators, but the usual camaraderie feels strained. Conversations are clipped, eyes darting, and trust is a rare currency. You realize that your new role has set you apart. Some look at you with envy, others with suspicion, You carry the dagger of Crassus's favor, but also the weight of expectations and dangers. Night falls softly over Rome. The city hums quietly beyond the walls of the Ludus. The sounds of distant chatter, the clinking of cups, the occasional shout carrying through the darkness. You lie on your cot, muscles twitching from the day's exertions, your mind racing even as your body begs for rest. Your fingers find the cold steel of the dagger at your side, tracing its edges absently. It is more than a weapon. It is a symbol of your precarious position, a shield against threats seen and unseen, a reminder of promises made and debts owed. You wonder what tomorrow will bring. A fight for survival, a chance at freedom, or another twist in this perilous game. The air grows cooler, the stars peeking faintly through the city's haze. You close your eyes and listen to the soft breathing of your comrades, the gentle rustling of the night wind through olive branches. Rome never truly sleeps, but in this moment, you find a fragile peace. Your thoughts drift toward hope, not the loud hope of victory or glory, but the quiet hope that, for one more day, you will live to fight again. The next morning greets you with the sharp, bracing chill of early dawn, a rare reprieve from the blazing Roman sun. You lie still on your cot, savoring the quiet hum of the world waking around you. The scent of damp earth and olive groves drifts faintly through the open window, mingling with the faintest trace of burning wood from nearby hearths. It's a fragile calm, a brief bubble of peace before the day's storm of violence and politics. You rise slowly, muscles stiff but obedient, and head toward the baths, an essential ritual for every gladiator, a mix of hygiene, recovery, and social theater. The baths are a hive of murmurs and splashes, steam curling like spirits rising from the hot water. You sink into the warmth, letting it soothe the bruises and aches earned from yesterday's battles and today's promises. Bath time is more than cleansing, it's a moment for observing. You watch the other fighters as they move through the space, some playful, others brooding, and a few exchanging whispered words that feel like coded messages. The social dance here is as intricate as any fight. Alliances are formed and tested with glances, smiles, and subtle gestures. Between scrubbing away the grime, your mind wanders to the rituals surrounding gladiators. You recall hearing that many fighters applied scented oils not just to mask sweat, but as a way to attract patrons or curry favor. Historians still argue whether these rituals were practical or purely performative, but you understand they serve as yet another layer of the gladiator's complex existence, a blend of survival, showmanship, and social navigation. As you dress and prepare for the day's lessons, Crassus's advisor approaches quietly. His tone is less harsh today, more instructional. Remember, knowledge is as important as muscle. The Senate listens when you learn to speak their language, not just Latin, but the dialects and codes of power. You nod, understanding that the real battles may take place far from the arena, in marble halls filled with whispers and political maneuvers. You wonder how many gladiators before you have tried to walk this path, and how many have stumbled. Your training today is split between physical drills and studying rhetoric, the art of persuasion. It's a strange contrast. Swinging swords in the morning, debating Senate politics in the afternoon. But it's a necessary duality. You practice speech alongside swordplay, learning to command attention not just with muscle, but with words. A fellow gladiator, a Syrian named Marcellus, jokes that you're becoming more of a senator than a fighter. The thought makes you smile, but there's truth in it. The arena demands more than brute force. It demands a performance, a persona crafted as carefully as any senator's reputation. Later, you are led to a dimly lit chamber where Crassus himself awaits. His presence fills the room, an overwhelming mixture of authority, charisma, and menace. He speaks little, but every word he utters is weighted with meaning. You walk a dangerous line, he says quietly, but if you learn to balance, you will not just survive, you will thrive. The day closes with a feast, lavish and noisy, filled with laughter and wine. You sit among strangers, senators, merchants, and warriors, each playing their part in the grand theater of Rome. You raise your goblet silently, thinking of the path ahead, the battles to come, and the strange shifting nature of power. Quirky tidbit. It's said that some gladiators enjoyed rare delicacies like flamingo tongues or roasted dormice. Not exactly the food of champions, but then again, gladiators were anything but ordinary. As the night deepens, you retreat to your quarters, muscles weary but spirit alive with determination. Outside, the city glows softly under a tapestry of stars, the distant sounds of revelry mingling with the occasional bark of a stray dog. You close your eyes and breathe deeply, ready to face whatever dawn brings. You wake to the distant clamor of the city, vendors shouting, horses' hooves clattering on cobblestones, and the unmistakable sound of construction as Rome continues to build itself taller, grander, unstoppable. It's a sound that somehow feels like both a promise and a threat, a reminder that life, like the city, is always pushing forward, whether you're ready or not. Today the training is brutal. The doctor demands more than just muscle. He tests your endurance, your mental grit, your ability to keep calm when every fiber screams otherwise. You dodge and weave through mock battles, sweat pouring down your face, sand and dust filling your lungs. Your arms burn, your legs ache, but you push on. This is not just practice. It's preparation for the unknown, for the moment when the crowd roars and your life hangs by a thread. You notice something peculiar during today's drills. Some gladiators use subtle signals, a tap of the foot, a tilt of the head, to communicate during combat. These secret gestures form an unspoken language born from trust and necessity. Historians still debate whether these codes were widespread or just isolated to certain schools, but for you, this small discovery feels like unlocking a hidden layer of the gladiatorial world. During a break, you're handed a wooden tablet inscribed with lines of Latin poetry. Crassus's advisor insists that understanding poetry and history is as vital as mastering the sword. The crowd loves a story, he reminds you. Be the hero of your own tale. You chuckle, imagining yourself reciting epic verses in the middle of a bloody fight. Still, there's wisdom in his words. The arena is not just a battlefield, it's a stage, and every move you make contributes to the story told that day. You practice reciting the verses aloud, your voice low and steady, the Latin rolling off your tongue like a lullaby. It's strangely soothing, a momentary escape from the harsh realities of your existence. Later, you join a group of gladiators for a meal, simple fare of bread, cheese, and dried fruit. Conversations meander from strategy to personal stories. One warrior tells a tale about a peculiar gladiator who trained with a pet raven, teaching it to mimic the sounds of battle. You can't help but smile at the absurdity. Imagine a raven squawking "Hail Caesar" during a fight. The day ends with a ritual that always gives you pause. The lighting of the torches for the evening games. The flickering flames cast dancing shadows, reminding you how close you are to becoming part of the spectacle. You think about the crowd, their cheers and gasps, and the thin line between admiration and cruelty. As you lie down to rest, you feel the weight of the day settling in your bones. Tomorrow, you remind yourself, will be another battle, not just with swords, but with fate itself. Dawn breaks again, soft and golden, the pale light filtering through the narrow window of your quarters. The air feels cooler now, almost gentle, like a quiet whisper promising a new beginning. You stretch, limbs aching but alive, muscles remembering every strain, every victory, every near-fatal mistake. It's a strange comfort, this dance of pain and resilience. Today is different. You sense it from the way the trainers look at you, the subtle nods from your fellow gladiators. There's a charged energy in the air, a mixture of anticipation and unspoken tension. The games are tonight, the grand event that could change everything. For a moment, you allow yourself to imagine what freedom might feel like, walking out of the arena not just as a survivor, but as something more. As you prepare, your thoughts drift back to the many lessons you've learned. The importance of reading your opponent, the subtle signals shared between fighters, the politics behind the scenes, the power of story and performance. You realize the gladiator's life is not just a test of strength, but a complex web of survival, strategy, and hope. You step onto the sands of the arena, the crowd's roar swelling around you like a living tide. The sunlight glints off your armor, and the scent of dust and sweat fills your nostrils. The faces in the crowd blur together, some eager, some fearful, some hungry for spectacle. You carry with you the weight of every training session, every whispered conversation, every cautious alliance. The fight begins, a chaotic ballet of motion and steel. You move with a practiced grace, your body remembering the drills, your mind anticipating the moves of your opponents. The cheers rise and fall like waves, and you become part of the story the crowd craves, a hero, a villain, a survivor. In this moment, you understand the truth. The arena is a stage, life is a performance, and you are the star of your own unfolding drama. Historians still argue whether gladiators were mere pawns, or if some truly seized their destinies. Tonight, you decide to seize yours. As the dust settles and the crowd's roar fades into the twilight, you stand victorious, not just over your opponents, but over fear, doubt, and the relentless tide of fate. The path ahead is uncertain, but for now, you have carved your name into the annals of Rome's living legend. Now for the final wind down, gently slowing the pace to close the journey. The sun has set on your day, and the city's noise softens into a distant murmur. You lie back, muscles tired but heart steady, feeling the slow rhythm of your breath, the steady beat of life that pulses beneath all fear and struggle. Imagine the warm night air brushing softly against your skin, the faint scent of olive trees and distant fires mingling with the quiet peace settling around you. Close your eyes and feel yourself drifting away from the clamorous arena, from the weight of armor and sword, from the gaze of thousands. Here in this calm, you are free, safe in the soft embrace of night. Let the shadows lengthen gently, your thoughts grow quiet, your body relax. You are not just a gladiator now. You are a soul resting, a story paused between chapters. Remember that courage does not always roar. Sometimes it is the quiet breath you take before facing another day. So rest now, knowing that you have survived, that you have lived, and that tomorrow brings another chance to dream, to fight, and to live fully. Good night, and sweet dreams.